For 6 months, I was utterly deceived. My mother-in-law swore on her life that my stepson was mute and mentally unstable due to trauma. But the moment her car disappeared around the corner, the supposedly disabled child abruptly grabbed my collar, stared at me with piercing intensity, and whispered a sentence that made my blood run cold. "Mom, run. Now. We're both going to be killed, just like my real mom." The old grandfather clock in the great room chimed 3 times, its heavy, resonant tones echoing throughout the vast, cold house. Sarah stood stiffly beside a marble pillar, her hands wringing nervously. Across from her, Eleanor was preening in front of a large, gilt-framed mirror. The older woman was applying a coat of bright red lipstick, a stark contrast to her wrinkled yet meticulously maintained skin. The overpowering scent of jasmine wafted from her, an aroma that always made Sarah's stomach turn slightly. "Remember what I told you, Sarah?" Eleanor's voice was flat, but laced with emphasis. She didn't turn, her eyes still critically examining her chignon. 3 o'clock sharp. Don't be a minute late. That medicine has to be in Leo's mouth before he has one of his episodes. You know what he's like when he throws a tantrum. The neighbors can hear. It's embarrassing. "Yes, Eleanor. I remember," Sarah replied softly. Eleanor turned around, her gaze sweeping over Sarah from head to toe, a look that always made Sarah feel small and insignificant. It was a constant reminder of her place. Though Sarah was the legal wife of Michael, Eleanor's son, in this house she felt like nothing more than an unpaid nurse for a troubled step-grandson. "Good. Michael is busy with that project in Texas. Don't bother your husband with pointless reports about that boy. You have one job in this house. Make sure Leo doesn't cause me any trouble," Eleanor said, grabbing a designer leather bag from the console table. "I have a luncheon at the country club. I'll likely be home late." She paused. "Lock the gate after I leave?" Sarah nodded obediently, walking her mother-in-law to the grand porch. The family's driver was already waiting, the engine of the black sedan humming quietly. Eleanor slipped into the car without a backward glance. As the car glided out of the gate and vanished around the bend, Sarah let out a long, shuddering breath. The tension in her shoulders slowly eased. The house was suddenly quiet. A chilling, oppressive silence. Sarah turned, went back inside, and locked the heavy front door. She walked down the long hallway to a room at the very end, a room that was always kept shut. Her stepson, whom she had only known for the 6 months since she'd married Michael. Leo, a poor, unfortunate 8-year-old boy, according to Eleanor and Michael. He had been in a terrible car accident a year ago that claimed the life of his biological mother. Since then, Leo had been completely mute, his mental state shattered. He often had violent outbursts for no reason, throwing things and scratching anyone who came near. Sarah opened Leo's door cautiously. The smell of stale air and medication immediately hit her. In the corner of the room, Leo sat on the carpet, his small body thin and his face pale. He was stacking wooden blocks with a vacant stare, his mouth slightly agape, a trail of saliva on his chin. The sight never failed to break Sarah's heart. "Leo," Sarah called gently, kneeling beside him. "Grandma's gone. It's time for your medicine, sweetie." She reached into the pocket of her dress and pulled out a small bottle of pink liquid, prepared by Eleanor that morning. She poured it onto a spoon. Her hand trembled slightly. She hated this part. Every time he took this medicine, Leo would become limp and sleep like a zombie until the next morning. Just as the spoon neared Leo's lips, a small, thin hand shot out with lightning speed. Clang! The spoon was swatted away, flying across the room and landing on the floor. The pink liquid splattered onto the carpet. Sarah gasped, startled. "Leo, don't do that. Grandma will be furious if she finds out you spilled it," she said in a panic, reflexively reaching for a tissue to clean the mess. But before she could, the collar of her dress was yanked forcefully. The strength was far too great for a boy who was supposedly physically weak. Sarah looked up, and her breath caught in her throat. Leo's eyes were no longer vacant. They were sharp, clear, and filled with an intelligent fear. The slack-jawed, foolish expression had vanished, replaced by the wary look of an adult trapped in a child's body. He brought his face close to Sarah's ear and whispered, his voice perfectly clear, without a hint of a stutter. Mom, don't scream. We have to run, now. Before she comes back, she isn't human. A powerful tremor went through Sarah. It felt as if all the oxygen had been sucked from her brain. She froze, her eyes wide as she stared at the boy before her. Her heart hammered against her ribs. You can talk? Her voice was a choked, barely audible whisper. Leo released his grip on her collar and darted to the door. He pressed his ear against the wood, listening intently to the sounds outside. His movements were tactical, like a fugitive evading capture. Confident they were alone, he returned to Sarah, who was still slumped on the floor in shock. You have to believe me. We don't have much time, Leo said quickly, his voice small but firm. Grandma is only gone for 4 hours. Maybe 5 if there's traffic. We have to be gone before then. Wait, Leo. I'm so confused, Sarah said, holding her head, which had begun to throb. Your dad, your grandma. They said you were mute because of brain trauma. That your vocal cords were damaged in the accident. The doctor said so himself. Which doctor? Leo cut in, his tone cynical. His gaze was unnervingly old for his age. Grandma's personal doctor who comes to the house every month? The one who always brings a syringe if I refuse to drink that pink syrup? Sarah fell silent. It was true. Leo was never taken to a public hospital. A private physician, Dr. Evans, an old friend of Eleanor's, was always the one who came to check on him. I'm not mute, and I'm not crazy, Leo continued, his voice trembling with suppressed tears, though he fought to stay strong. I've been pretending. If I talked normally, if I seemed smart, Grandma would just give me a bigger dose of that medicine. The medicine that makes my head hurt so much, Mom. The medicine that makes me unable to remember anything. But why? Why would she do that? You're her only grandchild, Sarah argued, still trying to deny the horrifying puzzle pieces that were starting to click into place in her mind. Eleanor's constant warnings to keep her distance from Leo, the prohibition on taking him outside, the thick iron bars on his bedroom window. Because I know, Mom, Leo whispered, squeezing her hand. His small hand was ice cold. I know why my mom died. It wasn't an accident. The brakes on her car didn't fail. I saw Grandma. The night before, I saw her cutting something under Mom's car. Sarah clamped a hand over her mouth, stifling a horrified gasp. Her whole body went cold. The accusation was monstrous. To imagine Eleanor a respected woman, active in local charities as a cold-blooded killer seemed impossible. But Leo's eyes. His eyes weren't lying. They were the eyes of a traumatized witness. Then why the tantrums? Why do you throw things at me? Sarah asked, tears beginning to well up. To push you away, Leo answered softly. Anyone who gets close to me gets hurt. There was Maria, the old housekeeper. She was kind to me. She knew I was faking. She wanted to tell Dad. The next day, Grandma accused her of stealing her diamond earrings and threw her out. Threatened to have her arrested. I was scared she'd do something to you too. Or arrange an accident for you like she did for Mom. Sarah pulled Leo into a fierce hug. The boy's body trembled in her arms. For 6 months, she had thought Leo hated her, the new stepmother. But all this time, the child had been trying to protect her in the most painful way imaginable. I believe you, Leo, Sarah whispered into his ear. Her maternal instincts surged, overriding her fear of Eleanor. Now tell me, what's really in that pink medicine? Leo pulled away and pointed to the overturned bottle on the floor. It's poison, Mom. A slow-acting poison. If you don't believe me, pour some on the snake plant on the balcony. Watch what happens. Sarah picked up the small glass bottle from the carpet. It was plain, with no pharmacy label, no list of ingredients, not even a doctor's name. Just a thick, pink liquid that smelled sweetly of strawberry, but with a faint, metallic undertone if you inhaled deeply. All this time, Sarah had simply obeyed when Eleanor told her it was a special vitamin for brain function and a herbal calming agent. Come on, Mom, hurry, Leo urged. Sarah stood up. The two of them tiptoed out of the room, creeping toward the back balcony on the 2nd floor. The house was eerily silent, broken only by the soft whistling of the wind. In a corner of the balcony stood a row of potted plants Sarah cared for. Among them, a lush, green snake plant. With a trembling hand, Sarah poured the remaining liquid from the spoon, about a teaspoon's worth, onto the soil near the plant's roots. "Now we wait," Leo said, his face tense. The minutes crawled by like hours. At first, nothing happened. Sarah began to wonder if Leo's trauma had indeed caused him to imagine things. But then, after about 30 minutes, she saw it. The tips of the snake plant's vibrant green leaves started to soften. Their color faded to a pale yellow, which then spread, turning a blackish brown. The once sturdy stalk slowly wilted, as if all its life-giving fluid had been forcibly sucked out. Within an hour, the healthy plant was a limp, rotting mess, its stem a black, slimy pulp. Sarah staggered back, her breath catching in her throat. She looked at her own hands in horror. These were the hands that, for 6 months, had spoon-fed that liquid into Leo's mouth every single day. "Oh, my God," Sarah gasped, her legs giving way. She collapsed onto the balcony floor. "All this time, I've been poisoning you." "It's not your fault, Mom," Leo said, kneeling to put a hand on her shoulder. "Grandma made you. If I didn't drink it, she'd force-feed me with a tube. That's why I'd pretend to swallow it and then throw it up in the bathroom when she left. But sometimes, she'd wait until I really swallowed. When it gets into my stomach, it burns, Mom. My head gets dizzy, and my tongue feels numb." A cold rage began to replace Sarah's fear. Eleanor wasn't just a cruel mother-in-law. She was a monster. She was systematically destroying her own grandson's nervous system. But why? What could she possibly gain by making Leo disabled? "Your dad, Michael. Does he know about this?" Sarah asked, her voice hoarse. Leo shook his head uncertainly. "Dad's rarely home. He's scared of Grandma. Whatever Grandma says, Dad believes. Grandma said I was crazy. Dad believed it. Grandma said Mom was having an affair. Dad believed it." Sarah clenched her fists. Michael was a good husband, but he was a classic mama's boy. His dependence on his mother was deeply unhealthy. "We need proof, Leo," Sarah said, her mind racing, searching for a strategy. "If we just run now, with no evidence, Grandma will call the police. She'll say I kidnapped you. With her money and connections, we'd be caught in 24 hours. And if we're caught, it's over for us." Leo looked at her, his eyes lighting up as if remembering something. "The storage shed in the back. Mom. The one with the big padlock. I saw Grandma go in there late one night with a briefcase. She thought I was asleep. I don't have a key, Leo." "There's a spare," Leo replied quickly. Maria hid a duplicate key under the big flower pot near the old well, just in case Grandma ever forgot hers. "Grandma doesn't know about it." Sarah looked at Leo, then at the sky, which was growing overcast. They didn't have much time. "All right," she said decisively. "Show me where it is." The back of Eleanor's estate was neglected. Weeds grew tall between the paving stones. In the darkest corner stood an old shed with a solid oak door, a rusty iron padlock hanging from it like a guardian of secrets. Leo ran to an old, concrete-sealed well. Beside it was a large terracotta pot holding a dead, dried-up bougainvillea. With some effort, Leo's small hands pushed the heavy pot aside. "Here, Mom." He picked up a small, tarnished brass key from the dirt beneath. Sarah took the key, wiped it on her dress, and tried it in the padlock. Her heart pounded. Click. The sound of the lock opening was deafeningly loud in the afternoon quiet. Sarah glanced around, making sure no neighbors were watching from over the high brick walls. She pushed the shed door open. The hinges groaned pitifully. The smell of dust, old paper, and dampness billowed out. Sarah switched on her phone's flashlight, its beam cutting through the darkness, illuminating a room cluttered with cardboard boxes and old furniture. "What are we looking for, Leo?" Sarah whispered. "A black metal box," Leo answered. They began to search. Sarah pulled away dusty drop cloths from old armchairs. Sarah moved closer. The wheelchair looked relatively new, but there were dark brownish stains on the seat. They looked like old, dried blood. "That was Mom's wheelchair." Leo's voice trembled from behind her. "After the accident, she was alive for 2 days. She couldn't walk. Then Grandma said she fell down the stairs. Said she got dizzy and slipped. But I heard Mom screaming for help before she fell. Sarah's blood ran cold. So Michael's first wife hadn't died instantly at the scene. The story was getting darker. "Mom, here!" Leo called. He had found a small, unlocked safe box on the bottom shelf of a rusty rack. Sarah hurried over. Inside was a stack of documents. Sarah picked up the top file. It was a life insurance policy. Her eyes scanned the lines of numbers. The payout was astronomical, $5 million. The insured's name, Leo Prescott. Sarah flipped to the next page to see the beneficiary. She expected to see Michael's name. She was wrong. The primary beneficiary, Eleanor Prescott, paternal grandmother. The secondary beneficiary line was blank. Michael's name was nowhere, only Eleanor's. Sarah opened another file. Health insurance, accident insurance, all in Leo's name, with insanely high claim values if Leo were to suffer a permanent disability or die. And beneath the stack of policies, Sarah found a pile of debt collection notices. Credit card bills, bank loan statements, even final warnings of asset seizure. The dates were recent. Eleanor's bankrupt, Sarah murmured in disbelief. Her socialite lifestyle, her designer bags, it was all financed by debt. It all made sense now. The motive was money. Leo was a walking piggy bank for Eleanor. By keeping him sick and mentally impaired, Eleanor could continuously claim health insurance benefits. And if, one day, Leo were to pass away, perhaps in another unfortunate accident, Eleanor would receive a $5 million windfall to pay off her debts. Michael, her own son, was completely in the dark because Eleanor controlled all the mail. "We have to take these, Mom," Leo said, grabbing the insurance policies. "Not all of them," Sarah stopped him. She took out her phone. "We'll photograph everything. If the files go missing, Grandma will know someone was in here. We have to put everything back exactly as it was." With trembling hands, Sarah photographed every page of the crucial documents. The debt notices, the insurance policies, and the falsified medical records from Dr. Evans. Suddenly, a sound made their blood freeze. A car horn from the front of the house. "Grandma." Leo's face went white as a sheet. "She's home." Sarah glanced at her watch. It was only 4:30 p.m. "Why is she back so soon?" "She said she'd be late," Sarah whispered, panicking. "Maybe the luncheon was canceled, or she forgot something." Leo's voice trembled. "Mom, let's go. If she finds us in here, we're finished." They hastily stuffed the papers back into the metal box. Sarah returned the wheelchair to its spot and covered it with the dusty cloth. They ran out of the shed. Sarah's hands shook violently as she tried to relock the rusty padlock. The key was stuck. "Come on, Mom, hurry!" Leo urged, glancing toward the side path that led to the garage. The sound of the metal gate sliding open echoed through the yard. "The car's in." Click. The padlock finally locked. Sarah grabbed Leo's hand, and they ran, sneaking through the back kitchen door just as a car door slammed in the front garage. "Mom, your shoes have mud on them," Leo pointed to Sarah's house slippers. He was right. They were caked with damp soil from the shed area. Sarah quickly kicked them off, hid them behind the washing machine, and grabbed a mop to wipe the faint tracks from the kitchen floor. "Leo, back to your room. Lock the door. Remember, sick mode," Sarah commanded in a low whisper. Leo nodded and ran to his room. In an instant, his posture changed. His shoulders slumped, his steps shuffled, a perfect imitation of a child with motor impairments. He went into his room and closed the door. Sarah took a deep breath, trying to slow her racing heart. She washed her hands at the kitchen sink, splashing water on her face to hide her pallor. "Sarah!" Eleanor's voice, sharp and impatient, called from the living room. "Yes, Eleanor," Sarah answered, trying to sound calm. She walked toward the front of the house. Eleanor stood in the middle of the living room, looking annoyed. Her expensive handbag was tossed carelessly onto the sofa. The luncheon was a bore. "The mayor's wife was just showing off her fake diamonds," Eleanor grumbled, removing her earrings. Suddenly, she froze. Her nose twitched, sniffing the air. "Where have you been, Sarah?" she asked, her eyes narrowing suspiciously. I was in the kitchen, Eleanor." "Boiling some water," Sarah replied. "The kitchen." Eleanor stepped closer. She looked down at Sarah's bare feet, Then her gaze traveled up to Sarah's face. "Why are you sweating like that? It's cool in this house." 2. I was mopping a little in the kitchen. There was a spill, Sarah lied quickly. Eleanor didn't reply. She began to walk slowly around Sarah, like a shark circling its prey. Then, she headed toward the hallway. "Leo, did you give him his medicine?" she asked without turning. "Yes, Eleanor. A little after 3. He was starting to get agitated," Sarah lied. Eleanor reached for the doorknob of Leo's room. Sarah held her breath. If Leo was sitting up straight or playing on a tablet, it was all over. The door opened. In the dim light of the room, Leo was curled up in a corner on his bed, rocking back and forth slowly, a rhythmic, self-soothing motion common in children with autism. His eyes stared blankly at the wall as he mumbled incomprehensible sounds. On the floor was the small puddle from the spilled medicine, which Sarah hadn't had time to clean, making it seem like a struggle had just occurred. A perfect performance. A small, chilling smile touched Eleanor's lips. "Good. He's calm now." The woman closed Leo's door and turned back to face Sarah. Her gaze was cold and piercing. "By the way, Sarah, on my way in, I noticed the snake plant on the upstairs balcony looks completely wilted. It's turned black. Strange, isn't it?" It was perfectly fine this morning. Sarah's heart stopped for a beat. Eleanor had seen it. Maybe it has a pest, Eleanor," Sarah stammered. "A pest," Eleanor repeated slowly. She stepped closer to Sarah until their faces were inches apart. The scent of her jasmine perfume was suffocating. Or maybe someone watered it with something they shouldn't have. "You aren't hiding anything from me, are you, Sarah?" Eleanor's hand came up, her cold fingers touching Sarah's cheek. The touch felt like a coiling snake. Sarah knew then. The war had just begun, and her enemy was no ordinary woman. Night fell, bringing a heavy, relentless rain. Thunder rumbled intermittently, illuminating the great room of the lavish house with eerie, pale flashes of light. Dinner was a silent, suffocating affair, the only sound the clinking of expensive silverware against porcelain plates. Sarah listlessly stirred her pot roast, her eyes occasionally darting to Leo, who sat across from her. The boy was back in his flawless role, eating messily, gravy dripping down his chin, his eyes vacant. At the head of the table, Eleanor ate with an unnerving grace, slicing her meat with slow, precise movements, as if performing a dissection. "Why aren't you eating, Sarah?" Eleanor asked suddenly. Her voice was soft, but it made the hairs on Sarah's neck stand up. The knife in her hand paused. "Is my cooking not to your taste, or are you afraid it's poisoned?" The question struck the very heart of Sarah's fear. She forced a smile, though her lips felt stiff. "No, of course not, Eleanor. I'm just a little dizzy. I think I'm coming down with something because of the weather," she answered quietly. "Dizzy." Eleanor set down her knife and fork neatly. She stared at Sarah intently. "Coincidentally, I have an excellent herbal remedy from my acupuncturist. I'll make you some tea later. It will help you sleep soundly." "That's not necessary, Eleanor," Sarah refused reflexively, her tone a little too sharp. She saw a flicker of offense in her mother-in-law's eyes and quickly softened her voice. "I mean, I already took some Tylenol. I just need to rest." Eleanor sniffed softly and resumed her meal. "As you wish." "Oh, by the way, Sarah, I noticed your cell phone on your dresser. The battery must be shot. It's completely dead. I've put it away in my bedroom drawer for now. I'll take it to my preferred repair shop tomorrow." Sarah's blood ran cold. Her phone had been working perfectly fine that afternoon. It was her only link to the outside world. "My phone isn't broken, Eleanor. Let me check it myself," Sarah said, trying to hide her panic. "I've already put it away, and I have the key," Eleanor cut her off coolly. She looked at Sarah with a condescending, crooked smile. "Besides, what do you need a phone for all the time? Your husband is working his fingers to the bone, and his wife is at home playing on social media? Just focus on taking care of Leo. Look at him. He's making a mess. Go feed him." Sarah looked at Leo. The boy's head was down, but under the table, his left hand made a small gesture. "Don't fight her." That night, Sarah realized this house was no longer a home. It was a prison. After dinner, she tried to turn on the TV in the family room to break the silence, but the screen was just static. The cable had been disconnected. The landline on the corner table had no dial tone. The home's usually strong Wi-Fi was no longer detectable on her laptop. The password had surely been changed. Eleanor was completely isolating them. At 10 o'clock, Sarah went to her room and locked the door, but she knew the standard lock could be easily opened from the outside. She dragged a small dresser in front of the door to barricade it. When she peeked through the curtains, she saw the front gate had been secured with an extra, heavy-duty chain. The neighborhood security booth at the end of the street was a distant, dark shape, its presence nullified by the rain. Sarah sat on the edge of her bed, hugging her knees. She thought of the photos of the insurance documents and Eleanor's debts on her phone. Her phone, now confiscated by Eleanor. The evidence was in that photo gallery. Cold sweat trickled down her temples. If Eleanor managed to unlock her phone and see those pictures, she would know Sarah had been in the forbidden shed. And tonight might very well be Sarah's last night alive. The next morning, the tension in the house was palpable. Sarah woke up early, determined to take control of the kitchen. She couldn't let Leo eat anything prepared by Eleanor. When she walked into the kitchen, Eleanor was already there, stirring a large pot of oatmeal. Steam rose, carrying a savory aroma that strangely nauseated Sarah. Beside the stove was a small, unlabeled jar of white powder. "Morning, Sarah," Eleanor greeted her without turning. "I'm making a special oatmeal for Leo. He has trouble swallowing solid food, you know." Sarah glanced at the jar of white powder. Her mind immediately flashed to the blackened, rotting snake plant on the balcony. "Let me cook today, Eleanor," Sarah said quickly, stepping toward the stove. "You have your club meeting, don't you? Or you should rest. Let me handle breakfast." "Not necessary." Eleanor brushed Sarah's hand away as she reached for the ladle. Her touch was rough. "You're a terrible cook. Your seasoning is never right. Leo needs special nutrition. Move." "But Leo is my stepson, Eleanor." "He's my responsibility," Sarah said, daring to meet her mother-in-law's eyes. Eleanor slammed the stove off. She turned, her face red with restrained fury. "Listen here, you ungrateful little tramp," Eleanor hissed, her finger jabbing towards Sarah's nose. "You came into this house with nothing. Michael picked you up out of pity. Don't you dare act like the lady of the house. In this house, my rules apply. If I say Leo eats this oatmeal, he eats this oatmeal." "And what if there's poison in it, Eleanor?" The words slipped out of Sarah's mouth before she could stop them. Silence. The atmosphere in the kitchen froze. The only sound was the low hum of the refrigerator. Eleanor's eyes widened for a fraction of a second before narrowing into a sharp, dangerous glare. Her expression shifted from anger to something far more menacing. "Calm. Poison," Eleanor chuckled, a dry, hollow sound. Well. It seems my suspicions were correct. You're starting to hallucinate, Sarah. What a pity for Michael, having a mentally unstable wife. Is it because you're barren and can't give me a grandchild? Has it made you so stressed that you're making wild accusations against your mother-in-law?" "I'm not barren," Sarah retorted. "Who knows?" Eleanor shrugged. She took her latest model smartphone from her pocket. "Hello, Michael?" Eleanor made a speakerphone call. Sarah was stunned. "Hi, Mom. What's up?" "I'm in the middle of a briefing." Michael's tired, hoarse voice came from the other end. "I'm so sorry to bother you, darling." Eleanor's voice instantly transformed, becoming soft, fragile, and sorrowful. "I just needed to talk. Your wife, Sarah, she's getting worse, Michael. Just now in the kitchen, she had a fit, accused me of trying to poison Leo with his oatmeal." "I'm scared, Michael." She was holding a knife. Sarah stared, aghast. "That's a lie, Michael. I wasn't holding a knife. She's lying. Listen to me." "Sarah," Michael yelled from the phone. "What is wrong with you? Yesterday, Mom told me you were screaming at yourself. Now you're accusing her of poisoning my son? She's the one who's cared for Leo since he was a baby. Michael, Leo can talk. He's not mute. She's been giving him medicine to Sarah tried to scream into the phone. Eleanor deftly moved the phone away, putting on a pained, fabricated expression. You see, Michael? She's becoming delusional. Saying Leo can talk. You know yourself, his nerves were severed. Oh dear God. I'm afraid Sarah will hurt Leo when she has one of these episodes. My God. Okay, Mom, I'm coming home. Today. I'll find a flight right now. Lock Sarah in her room if you have to. Don't let her anywhere near Leo. Michael's voice was a mixture of panic and anger. Click. Eleanor ended the call. The old woman put her phone back in her pocket, a triumphant smirk playing on her lips as she looked at Sarah, who was trembling with a mixture of tears and fury. See? Eleanor whispered. Michael trusts his mother more than some new wife with a questionable background. Now, you will sit there quietly, and Leo will eat this oatmeal. When Eleanor brought the bowl of oatmeal to the dining table, Leo was already seated. Sarah held her breath, trying to signal him with her eyes. Don't eat it. Leo looked at his grandmother, then at the oatmeal, his movements stiff and robotic in his disabled persona. He accidentally knocked the bowl with his elbow. Crash! The bowl shattered. Hot oatmeal spilling all over the floor. Arr! Leo groaned, hitting his own head, faking a tantrum. Eleanor's face flushed with rage, but she couldn't strike Leo with Sarah watching. Useless, disabled child, she muttered under her breath, then yelled for the part-time maid who had just arrived. Clean this up! I'm going out for a bit. I need some air. My head is about to explode looking at the two lunatics in this house. Eleanor grabbed her purse and stormed out. This was their chance. The moment Eleanor's car left the gate, Sarah ran to the front fence. The extra chain was still padlocked. Eleanor had the key. The walls were too high to climb, topped with sharp, jagged glass embedded in the concrete. Mom, the mailman! Leo called out, peeking from the living room window. Sure enough, the familiar sound of the mail truck was approaching. Mr. Henderson, the friendly local mail carrier, was doing his rounds. Sarah ran to the edge of the gate, waving her hand through the iron bars. Mr. Henderson stopped. The kind, elderly man smiled. Morning, Mrs. Prescott. Bit of a wet one, eh? Not coming out for the mail? Sir, please help me, Sarah whispered quickly, looking around nervously, afraid of security cameras from the neighboring mansions. I'm locked in. My mother-in-law locked me in. Mr. Henderson's brow furrowed in confusion. Locked in? Why, you look like a prisoner in there. I'll explain later. Do you know Maria, the housekeeper who used to work here? Sarah asked. Oh, Maria? Sure, I know Maria. She rents a small place in the neighborhood behind this one now. Sells breakfast burritos from a cart, Mr. Henderson replied. Sarah fumbled in her pocket. She had already scribbled a short message on a grocery receipt she found in a kitchen drawer. Maria, it's Sarah, Michael's wife. Leo is in danger. Eleanor wants to harm him for the insurance money. We know about her gambling debts. Please help us. We're locked in. Come to the back wall of the house tonight at 10 p.m. Knock 3 times. Sarah folded the note into a tiny square and tucked it inside a $20 bill. Sir, please give this to Maria. Tell her it's to repay a small debt. Please make sure she opens the folded note. It's a matter of life and death, Sarah pleaded, her eyes welling up. Mr. Henderson saw the genuine fear and desperation in Sarah's eyes. He nodded firmly. You got it, ma'am. I'm heading that way right now. He started his truck and drove off. Sarah let out a sigh of relief, though her heart was still pounding. She went back inside. Leo was waiting behind the door. Did it work? He whispered. I hope so, Sarah replied. Now we have to get ready. Your father is coming home this afternoon. We have to convince him before Grandma twists the story again. It'll be hard, Mom, Leo said pessimistically, sinking to the floor and hugging his knees. Dad never stands up to Grandma. When Mom died, he was suspicious that the car had been sabotaged, but Grandma cried and fainted and put on a whole show. He caved and didn't push for an investigation of the car. Sarah knelt beside Leo, stroking his hair. We have to try, Leo. You have to talk to your dad. Use your real voice. Show him you're not sick. Grandma will probably drug Dad's coffee or my water before I get a chance to speak, Leo countered. She's smart, Mom. Sarah fell silent. Leo was right. They needed a backup plan. Her eyes drifted toward the back of the house again, toward the shed. The duplicate key was still in her pocket. Tonight, if Maria comes, we'll ask her to bring something, she thought. A burner phone, a voice recorder, anything. That evening, the sky was a grim, overcast gray, mirroring the bleak atmosphere inside house number 18. At 5 p.m., a taxi pulled up to the gate. Michael got out, his face haggard, his work shirt wrinkled, and his eyes red from lack of sleep. Eleanor, who had been home for hours, immediately greeted him at the gate with a perfectly orchestrated flood of tears. "Michael, thank God you're home, son," she sobbed, clinging to him. "I can't take it anymore. Your wife is getting more and more unhinged. This afternoon, she almost threw a hot pan at me." Sarah stood in the main doorway, watching the melodrama with clenched fists. She wanted to scream, to defend herself, but she knew that would only make her look more hysterical, playing right into Eleanor's script. Michael gently removed his mother's arms and stared hard at Sarah. His look was cold, filled with disappointment. Sarah began. "Inside," Michael commanded curtly, his voice heavy. They sat in the great room. The family tribunal had begun. Eleanor sat next to Michael, clutching his arm as if seeking protection. Sarah sat alone on the opposite sofa. Leo was nowhere to be seen, locked in his room by Eleanor, so he wouldn't be traumatized by the fighting. "Explain, Sarah," Michael said flatly. "Why would you accuse my mother of trying to poison Leo? You know how much she loves her only grandchild." "Michael, I have proof," Sarah said, trying to stay calm though her voice trembled. "The plant on the balcony died within an hour of being watered with Leo's medicine. And Leo isn't sick, Michael. He's being forced to take high doses of sedatives to make him appear disabled." "Where's the proof?" Michael demanded. "Where's this plant?" "On the upstairs balcony." "Let's go see it," Sarah urged, a flicker of hope rising. The three of them went up to the balcony. But when they got there, the pot that had held the snake plant was empty. There was only fresh, dark soil. The rotted plant was gone. Sarah stared in disbelief. She turned to Eleanor. The old woman wore a look of innocent confusion. "What plant, Sarah?" "Oh, that one. I cleaned out this pot this morning. The plant was old and dying. I had the gardener toss it." "Why? Are you going to say I was destroying evidence?" "It was rotting this morning, Michael. It was black and slimy," Sarah cried hysterically. "She's lying." "Enough, Sarah," Michael roared, his voice echoing off the walls. He massaged his throbbing temples. "Why are you so paranoid?" "Mom, throwing out a dead plant is normal. You're inventing stories about poison, about Leo talking. You need a psychiatrist." "Michael, please, just believe me this one time. Open Leo's door. Talk to him. Look into his eyes," Sarah begged, tears streaming down her face. "I'm tired, Sarah." Michael threw his briefcase on the floor. "I travel for work, breaking my back for you too. And I come home to this insanity. Are you jealous of the attention Mom gives Leo? Or do you just hate my mother?" "She never liked me from the start, Michael," Eleanor chimed in softly. "She feels I interfere too much, even though I'm only trying to help run the house." "That's not it," Sarah took a step forward, reaching for her husband's hand. Eleanor suddenly shrieked and recoiled as if Sarah were about to strike her. "Michael, look out!" On instinct, Michael roughly shoved Sarah's shoulder, making her stumble and fall back onto the sofa. "Don't touch my mother." Michael's eyes were blazing. "You're sleeping in the guest room tonight. Tomorrow morning, I'm calling a psychiatrist to evaluate you. If you're found to be unstable, I'll have to reconsider this marriage." Sarah's heart shattered, not because of the push, but because of Michael's blindness. This intelligent, Ivy League-educated man was utterly neutered in his mother's presence. Michael helped his mother into the master bedroom. The door slammed shut. Sarah was left alone in the darkening room, but in the midst of her despair, she saw a glimmer of hope. The door to Leo's room was cracked open slightly. Leo peeked through the gap, His face was wet with tears, but he gave Sarah a slow nod. The signal, Plan B, was on. Tonight was do or die. The clock struck 2 in the morning. The house was as silent as a tomb. Michael was snoring softly in the guest room. His anger had led him to sleep alone. Eleanor was in her lavish master suite. Sarah crept out of her room, her steps silent on the thick carpet. She went to Leo's room. The door was unlocked. In his emotional state, Michael had forgotten to lock it. Sarah entered. Leo was awake, sitting upright on the edge of his bed with a small backpack on. "Are we going now?" he whispered. "Not yet," Sarah replied. "First, we meet Maria at the back wall. We need an outside witness." They tiptoed toward the back door. As they passed Michael's room, Leo paused, looking at his father's door with a sad expression. "Mom," he whispered, "I need to tell you something else about the accident." Sarah knelt down to his level. "Tell me, sweetie." "It was raining that night, just like now," Leo began, his voice shaking with the memory of the trauma. "We were going to the airport to pick up Dad. Our driver was sick, so Mom was driving. I saw Grandma come out of the side garage. She was carrying Dad's toolbox. She went under the car. I thought she was trying to get a cat that was hiding under there. But she had a wrench. She was turning something near the front wheel. For a long time, then she came out, smiling to herself, and went back into the house through the side door." Sarah covered her mouth, horrified by the image. "When we were on the highway, the steering wouldn't turn. Mom, it wasn't the brakes that failed. The tie rod broke. The car spun out and hit the guardrail. It rolled over 3 times. Tears streamed down Leo's face. I was trapped in the back seat. Mom. Mom was thrown out through the windshield. She was still conscious then. She was screaming my name." Leo clutched Sarah's arm tightly. "But that wasn't the scariest part, Mom. When the ambulance and police came, Grandma showed up in a taxi. People thought she was rushing to help, but when she saw Mom bleeding on the asphalt, she smiled. Mom. A tiny little smile. Then she stomped on Mom's cell phone that was lying on the road until it was smashed to pieces. There must have been some kind of proof on it. Oh my God, Sarah breathed. Eleanor's crime was far more premeditated and sadistic than she had imagined. This wasn't a crime of passion. It was a cold, calculated execution. I pretended to be unconscious then, Leo continued. Ever since that day, whenever Grandma looked at me, it was like she was saying, if you talk, you'll end up just like your mother. So I stayed quiet. I was afraid Dad wouldn't believe me. Just like he didn't believe you this afternoon? I believe you, Leo, Sarah said firmly, wiping his tears. And tonight, we're going to make your father believe too. Even if we have to drag him kicking and screaming to the truth. Suddenly, there was a soft tapping from the back glass door. Tap, 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 3 times. The code. Maria was here. Sarah and Leo hurried to the back. Sarah slowly unlocked the sliding door. In the darkness of the backyard, near the boundary wall, a figure was climbing a bamboo ladder from the other side. Maria's aged face appeared over the wall. Mrs. Sarah, Maria whispered, her voice raspy. She tossed a black plastic bag toward Sarah. Sarah caught it. Inside was a flash drive and a stack of photocopied papers. Those are her gambling debts from a casino in Atlantic City from 2 years ago. I found them in the trash when she was firing me. I kept them, just in case, Maria whispered from atop the wall. And on that flash drive is a copy of the garage's security footage that I managed to save before she deleted it. The footage from the night of the accident. The quality is bad, but you can see her going under the car. Sarah felt like her heart would explode. This was it. The smoking gun, incontrovertible proof. Thank you, Maria. You're our hero, Sarah said. Get out of there, quickly, ma'am. That woman is desperate. Maria's words were cut short. The backyard floodlights suddenly switched on, blinding them. Well. A touching reunion. Eleanor's voice echoed from the back patio. Sarah and Leo spun around in shock. Eleanor stood there, still in her nightgown. But in her hand, she held an antique revolver, a collector's item from Michael's late grandfather. The muzzle was aimed directly at Sarah, Behind Eleanor stood two large, burly men. Hired thugs, smuggled into the house at some point. "Get them," Eleanor commanded coldly, "and make sure that old hag on the wall can't run." The rain fell harder, muffling Sarah's choked scream as the two burly men seized her from behind. Their powerful arms locked around her, and Leo's neck swiftly, efficiently, painfully. Sarah struggled, kicking her legs, but she was no match for their strength. The black plastic bag with the evidence slipped from her grasp, falling onto the wet grass. "Don't move, or the kid's neck snaps," one of the thugs holding Leo threatened. His eyes were wide with real terror, his breath coming in ragged gasps. A large, grimy hand was clamped around his small neck. On the wall, Maria shrieked in horror. "Eleanor, for God's sake, that's your own grandson." Eleanor looked up at Maria, a cold smirk on her face under the glare of the floodlights. She cocked the revolver. Click. "Get out of here, you old busybody, or this bullet finds a home in your forehead," Eleanor snarled, her voice no longer elegant but hoarse and cruel. Maria knew she couldn't fight a gun. She gave Sarah an apologetic look, then scrambled down the ladder and disappeared into the night to find help. Eleanor didn't shoot. The sound of a gunshot would wake the neighbors, a risk she wasn't ready to take just yet. Bring them inside through the back. "Don't wake, Michael," she ordered the thugs. They were dragged forcefully into the house. Sarah tried to bite the arm of the man holding her, but he just struck the back of her neck hard. Her vision swam with black spots. Pain shot from her neck to her head. She was half dragged through the kitchen to a small storage closet under the stairs, not the large shed, but a cramped, stuffy utility closet near the clean kitchen. In. The thug threw Sarah and Leo onto the cold tile floor. Eleanor entered last, closing the door and towering over them. In her left hand, she held the black plastic bag containing the flash drive and documents she'd retrieved from the lawn. "You think you're so clever?" Eleanor laughed softly. She tossed the bag into a corner. "That old fool, Maria. She thinks some photocopies and a blurry security video can put me in prison. I have lawyers who can spin that into nothing in a heartbeat. But you, Sarah, you truly are a troublesome daughter-in-law." Sarah hugged the trembling Leo, glaring at her mother-in-law with a newfound hatred. "You're insane? You're going to kill us?" "Kill? No, that's too crude." Eleanor shook her head slowly, as if correcting a breach of etiquette. She crouched down, looking into Leo's eyes. "Nana's just going to straighten out destiny. Leo, darling, you know Nana loves you, but our lifestyle is expensive, dear. Nana has a lot of debts. Your insurance policies, they are our ticket to heaven." "You're a demon." Leo's voice was sharp, all pretense gone. Eleanor flinched for a moment at his clear voice, but then a wide smile spread across her face. "Well, Sarah was right. You are all better. What a shame. Smart children often die young." Eleanor stood up and glanced at the wall clock. 2:30 a.m. "You two wait here. I have to prepare the scene." Michael is sleeping very soundly, thanks to a double dose of sleeping pills in his evening coffee. He won't wake up until tomorrow afternoon when the police find the bodies of his wife and son. "What scene?" Sarah challenged. "A simple one," Eleanor replied casually. A young, stressed-out wife, depressed about her infertility, grows jealous of her stepson, murders him, and then commits suicide out of remorse. Tragic, isn't it? People will believe it. You already have a history of hallucinations about poison, after all. Eleanor signaled to the thugs. "Tie their hands and feet, duct tape their mouths. Make sure they can't make a sound." In the darkness of the cramped closet, Sarah and Leo sat back to back. Their hands were bound behind them with painful plastic zip ties. Their mouths were covered with thick black duct tape. The smell of floor cleaner and dust was suffocating. Leo's silent tears soaked the tape on his cheeks. Sarah could feel the tremors running through his small body against her back. Sarah closed her eyes, her mind racing. She couldn't give up. When Maria handed her the black bag, Sarah had felt her slip something else into the pocket of her house dress just before the thugs appeared. Something small, cold, and sharp. A small pocket knife. Maria must have anticipated this. Sarah prayed the knife hadn't fallen out when she was dragged. She moved her fingers behind her back, trying to feel the pocket of her dress, which was bunched up beneath her. There it was. It was still there. But getting it out with her hands tied was another matter. Sarah began to scoot her body along the floor, trying to position her pocket so her bound fingers could reach it. Leo groaned softly. Confused by her movements, Sarah nudged his back with hers, signaling him to be quiet and follow her lead. It took 15 agonizing minutes before the tip of Sarah's index finger finally touched the cold metal of the knife. With immense difficulty, she pinched it and slowly pulled it out. Cold sweat drenched her body. If she dropped it, it was over. Finally, the knife was in her hand. Opening it was the next struggle. She used a slightly chipped edge of a floor tile to catch the blade and flick it open. Click. It was open. Now, to cut the ties. Sarah couldn't cut her own. The angle was impossible. She had to cut Leo's first. She shifted, pressing her hand holding the knife against Leo's bound wrists behind him. Don't cut his artery. She sawed the knife back and forth against the tough plastic zip tie. Leo, understanding now, held his hands perfectly still. Outside the closet, they could hear footsteps pacing. Eleanor's voice gave instructions. Get the propane tank from the barbecue outside. The big one. Bring it to Leo's room. We'll make it look like they died from a gas leak. A stray cigarette ember, a small explosion, will be enough to destroy any physical evidence on their bodies. Sarah's blood ran cold. They were going to be blown up. She sawed faster, her hand cramping, but she ignored the pain. Break, you damn thing! Snap! The tie on Leo's hands broke. Leo moved quickly. His free hands immediately tore the duct tape from his mouth, stifling a cry of pain as the skin on his lips ripped. Mom, he whispered, his voice trembling. He quickly took the knife from Sarah's hand and cut her ties, then the ones on their feet. In 3 minutes, they were free, but still locked in the closet. We have to get out, Sarah whispered, peeling the tape from her own mouth. Her lip was bleeding. They're going to blow up part of the house. The door's locked from the outside, Leo said, jiggling the handle. Sarah scanned the closet. Brooms, mops, buckets, and bottles of cleaning supplies. One bottle caught her eye. Heavy-duty toilet bowl cleaner, hydrochloric acid, and on the top shelf, a container of caustic soda for clearing clogged drains. Sarah remembered a basic chemistry lesson. A strong acid mixed with a strong base could create a powerful reaction, heat, or at least a noxious gas. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or at the very least, the acid itself could be a weapon. Leo, grab that bucket. Mix this floor cleaner with the dish soap. Make the floor right outside the door really slippery, Sarah commanded. What for, Mom? A trap. We can't fight 2 grown men with brute force. We have to play dirty. They worked in silence. Sarah poured the toilet cleaner into an empty spray bottle, a makeshift chemical weapon. A squirt of this in the eyes could cause temporary blindness. Suddenly, the key turned in the lock. Get ready, Sarah hissed. She and Leo hid behind stacks of old boxes on either side of the door. The door opened. One of the thugs, shorter but stockier, stepped in, carrying a small propane tank. He looked annoyed. The old lady wanted the big one, but this thing is heavy enough, he grumbled. The moment his foot hit the floor coated in a thick layer of soap, his legs went out from under him. Thwump! The thug slipped spectacularly, landing flat on his back. The propane tank flew from his hands and slammed into his own shin. Arr! He screamed in pain. Now! Sarah yelled. She leaped out, spraying the acid cleaner directly into the thug's eyes. Ah! My eyes! They're burning! The man rolled on the floor, clawing at his face. Leo grabbed the 3 kilograms propane tank and, with all the strength an 8-year-old could muster, brought it down on the man's head. Thud! The man went limp, unconscious. Run! Sarah yelled, grabbing Leo's hand. They raced out of the closet and into the great room. But the second thug, a giant of a man, was waiting there. He looked surprised that his partner hadn't come out, but seeing Sarah and Leo running, he reacted instantly. Where do you think you're going, you little rats? The giant lunged. Sarah shoved Leo aside. Run to your dad's room. Wake him up. She let herself be caught. The man grabbed her by the hair, slamming her down onto the sofa. Sarah screamed in pain, but her hands scrabbled across the coffee table, searching for anything. A heavy crystal ashtray. As the man loomed over her, his hands going for her throat, Sarah swung the ashtray with all her might, smashing it against his temple. Crack! The ashtray shattered. Fresh blood poured from the thug's temple. He staggered back, groaning, but he wasn't knocked out. He was just angrier. You crazy bitch! The man pulled a switchblade from his belt. Upstairs, Leo was running as fast as he could to Michael's guest room. He pounded on the door with all his might. Dad! Dad! Wake up! Help! It's Mom! Dad! He screamed hysterically, his voice high-pitched, piercing the night's silence. The door was locked. Leo kicked and kicked at the door. No answer. Eleanor's sleeping pills were powerful. Downstairs, Sarah was fighting for her life. The giant thug slashed with the knife. Sarah rolled off the sofa. The blade sank into the leather upholstery. She kicked up, aiming for his groin with all her force. The man doubled over in pain. Sarah used the opportunity to scramble up and run for the stairs. Leo, get out of the house, she screamed. But Leo wouldn't leave. He was still in front of his father's door. At the end of the upstairs hall, Eleanor's bedroom door flew open. The old woman emerged, her face a mask of fury, the revolver still in her hand. Useless! All of you are useless! She shrieked, frustrated that her plan was falling apart. She saw Sarah running up the stairs with the wounded thug in pursuit. Eleanor aimed the gun at Sarah. Stop, or Leo dies. Sarah froze at the top of the stairs, panting. Below her, the thug with the bleeding head was starting to climb the stairs, murder in his eyes. In front of her, Eleanor pointed the gun. Beside Michael's door, Leo stood, trapped. Finish her, Eleanor commanded the thug coldly. Stab her, then throw her down the stairs. We'll say they fell during a struggle. The thug grinned, advancing on Sarah with the knife raised. Sarah backed away slowly, her back hitting the wall. There was nowhere to run. Bang! The door to Michael's room was suddenly thrown open. Michael stood there, swaying, his eyes red, his hair a mess, his face confused. He was still half-drugged, but the commotion, Leo's screams, the shattering ashtray had penetrated his medicated fog. What's going on? Michael mumbled, his voice thick and slurred. His vision was blurry. He saw his mother holding a gun. He saw his wife cornered by a bleeding man. He saw his son crying. Michael's brain couldn't process it. It was like a surreal nightmare. Michael, help! Sarah cried out. Go back inside, Michael, Eleanor snapped, panicking. Sarah's gone crazy. She brought criminals into the house to rob us. She wants to kill me. Eleanor spun a new lie in seconds. Look! Sarah has a knife! The small pocket knife was long gone, lost somewhere in the chaos. This man, he's a security guard I called to help. Sarah wounded him. Michael clutched his pounding head. He looked at Sarah, then at his mother. Who to believe? His logic was blunted by the drugs. The thug, seeing Michael's confusion, decided to finish his job. He lunged at Sarah again. Sarah fought back. They grappled at the edge of the stairs. The wooden railing groaned under their weight. Michael, help me! Sarah is trying to kill Leo! Eleanor screamed again, adding to Michael's confusion. Michael took a step forward, intending to separate Sarah and the thug. Let my wife go. It was then that the voice, silent for a year, returned like a clap of thunder. Dad, look at me. Listen to me. The cry wasn't that of a small, scared child. It was Leo's voice. Loud, clear, and commanding. Michael's steps faltered. He turned stiffly toward his son. Leo stood tall, tears streaming down his face, but his eyes burned with courage. He pointed a steady finger at Eleanor. Grandma is lying, Dad. She's the one who hired these men. She wants to kill Mom and me for the $5 million insurance money. She has gambling debts. Michael stared, his mouth hanging open, no sound coming out. Leo, you can talk? Eleanor's face went ashen. Her hand holding the gun trembled. Her ace was played. Her deepest secret was out, revealed in front of her primary target. Don't listen to him, Michael. He's possessed. He's crazy, she shrieked hysterically. I'm not crazy, Dad. Leo cut her off sharply, stepping toward his father, ignoring the gun. Remember Mom's accident? Grandma's the one who messed with the car in the garage. I saw her with the wrench. Grandma killed Mom, and now she wants to kill us all. Those words hit Michael harder than any physical blow. Fragments of memory flashed in his mind. His own doubts about his wife's accident, his mother's refusal to have the car examined, the dead snake plant. It all coalesced into one horrifying truth. The thug grappling with Sarah was momentarily distracted, stunned to hear the mute boy speak so fluently. Sarah seized the moment. She bit down hard on the thug's ear, tearing off a piece. "Arr!" The thug screamed, letting go of her. Sarah kicked him squarely in the chest. The large man lost his balance, stumbled backward through the already cracked wooden railing, and fell 2 stories to the floor below. Crash! His large body smashed through the glass coffee table in the great room. Silence. The man didn't move. Now it was just the 4 of them in the upstairs hall. Michael looked at his mother, his expression a mixture of horror, disgust, and profound grief. "Mom," his voice trembled. "Tell me it's not true. Tell me Leo is lying." Eleanor took a step back. Her mask had finally shattered. Her face showed only the desperation of a cornered loser. She waved the gun erratically between Michael, Sarah, and Leo. "You think money just falls from the sky?" she screamed, her voice breaking. "Your father left me with debts. I had to maintain this family's reputation. I sent you to the best schools, bought you this house. It all costs money. Your first wife was a stingy bitch. She deserved to die. And this disabled brat, he's just a burden." The confession was out, clear and stark. Michael fell to his knees, his legs no longer able to support him. His world had crumbled. The mother he had worshipped his entire life was a monster who had murdered his wife. "Just kill me, Mom," Michael whispered, staring down the barrel of her gun. "Kill me too." Eleanor's hand shook violently. She couldn't kill Michael, her prized asset. A flicker of hesitation appeared in her eyes. Sarah saw her opening. "Leo, run to your dad!" she yelled. Sarah grabbed a large vase from a console table and hurled it at Eleanor. Crash! The vase hit Eleanor's shoulder. The gun flew from her grasp, skittering across the hardwood floor. "Run!" Sarah screamed. She grabbed the collar of Michael's shirt, hauling her still shocked husband to his feet. "Michael, snap out of it! We have to go!" The other thug in the closet might be waking up. Michael was still dazed, but his instinct to protect his child kicked in. He scooped Leo into his arms. The 3 of them ran down the stairs, leaping over the body of the thug on the shattered glass table. Upstairs, Eleanor was screaming, crawling across the floor, trying to reach her gun. "Don't run, you cowards! Come back!" Sarah snatched Michael's car keys from the table near the door. They burst out of the house into the stormy night. They piled into Michael's SUV. Sarah took the driver's seat. Michael was still shaking too much. She started the engine. Pop. The rear window of the car shattered. Eleanor was on the upstairs balcony, firing at them. Her face was that of a mad witch from a fairy tale. Sarah stomped on the gas. The SUV lurched forward, crashing through the wooden front gate, which was still chained and padlocked. Crack! The gate splintered. The car shot out onto the dark, wet street. Sarah didn't look back. She floored it, speeding away from the house of horrors, away from the woman she once called Mom. In the back seat, Michael held Leo tightly, sobbing like a child. Leo, with a maturity far beyond his years, patted his father's back. "It's okay, Dad. It's okay. We're safe now." They were safe. For tonight. But Sarah knew it wasn't over. Eleanor wouldn't stop until one of them was destroyed. The black SUV cut through the torrential rain pouring down on the beltway. The shattered rear window let in wind and rain, making the cabin freezing cold, but the chill in Michael's heart was far colder. Sarah drove with trembling hands, her eyes glued to the rearview mirror, paranoid that another car was following them. In the back, Leo had fallen asleep on his father's lap, utterly exhausted. Michael sat like a statue, clutching his son, his eyes staring blankly out the dark window. "Where are we going, Sarah?" Michael finally asked, his voice hollow, like a man who had lost half his soul. "We can't go to a hotel, Michael. Your mother will have all our credit cards tracked and blocked by now," Sarah replied, her voice steady despite the tears that continued to fall. "We're going to my old college roommate's place, Rebecca. She's a lawyer in the city. She's the only one we can trust besides Maria." Michael just nodded slowly. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I'm so sorry." It was all he could say, over and over. A regret that came too late. 2 hours later, they arrived at a modest suburban house. Rebecca, a woman Sarah's age with thick glasses and a sharp, intelligent face, greeted them with shock. Seeing their condition, Sarah bruised, Michael a wreck, and Leo asleep with the faint imprint of duct tape on his cheek. Rebecca immediately understood it was a code-red emergency. "Get inside and turn off your phones," she commanded. In her small living room, while tending to a cut on Sarah's temple, they turned on the TV. The morning news was on, and sure enough, Sarah's face was plastered across the screen. Breaking news: child abduction and elder abuse in Greenwich. A stepmother, identified as Sarah P., has allegedly kidnapped her 8-year-old stepson and attempted to murder her own mother-in-law, respected socialite and philanthropist, Mrs. Eleanor Prescott. The suspect is believed to be suffering from a severe mental breakdown and has forced her husband to flee with her at knife point. On the screen, Eleanor was giving an interview in front of her lavish, now police-taped mansion. Her hand was bandaged from the vase, her face a mask of crocodile tears. "I never thought. I treated her like my own daughter," Eleanor sobbed for the cameras. Her performance was Oscar-worthy. "Please, just bring my grandson back. Leo needs his medication. He's very, very ill." "That psycho," Rebecca hissed. "She's already flipped the narrative. She's using her media connections." Michael stared at the screen, his jaw tight, his hands clenched into white-knuckled fists. The love and respect he'd had for his mother had curdled into a burning hatred. "She's not my mother," his voice was low and sharp. "She's a monster." That morning was a flurry of activity in Rebecca's small house. They planned their strategy. Sarah produced the flash drive Maria had given her. "Let's see what's on this," Rebecca said, plugging it into her laptop. Silence. The four of them, including a now-awake Leo, huddled around the screen. The first video appeared, the garage security footage from a year ago. It was grainy, black and white, but the content was undeniable. A figure, clearly Eleanor in her nightgown, entered the garage at 2 a.m. She slid under the family sedan, the one from the fatal crash. She was under there for 20 minutes, then emerged holding what looked like a bolt or a piece of metal. "Sabotage," Rebecca muttered. "This is strong evidence." But what, Auntie?" Leo asked nervously. "The video quality is poor. Her face isn't 100% clear. A high-priced lawyer could argue it's someone else, or that the video was edited," Rebecca analyzed realistically. "We need something more." "The insurance documents?" Sarah asked. "That's motive," Rebecca replied. "Useful, but she could argue she was just securing her grandson's future. The law is about technical proof." "Sarah, we're up against someone with money, connections, and a pristine public image." Suddenly, Michael stood up, his face cold. The submissive aura he'd always had was gone. "I know her weakness," he said. "My mother is a narcissist. She thinks she's the smartest person in the room. She underestimates everyone, especially me. She thinks I'm a stupid, controllable mama's boy." Michael looked at Sarah and Rebecca. "We're going to use that against her. I'll be the bait." "Michael, that's dangerous. She has a gun," Sarah protested. "The gun is her last resort, for when she panics." "Her primary weapon is manipulation," Michael insisted. He picked up Rebecca's old, untraceable burner phone. "We'll record her confession. Live." "How?" "I'm going to call her. I'll pretend I escaped from you. I'll say, I realize you really are crazy. I'll apologize and ask to meet her to hand over Leo." Sarah was speechless. It was an incredibly risky plan. If Eleanor suspected anything, Michael and Leo would be finished. Leo has to come, Michael said, looking at his son. She won't believe me if I come alone. She needs Leo, her asset, back. I'll go, Dad, Leo said firmly. I'm not scared of Grandma anymore, not with you there. Michael hugged his son, his eyes glistening. I promise. This time, I'll protect you. I'll bet my life on it. That afternoon, Michael made the call. Rebecca recorded it. Michael took a deep breath, schooling his features into an expression of pathetic panic. He dialed his mother's number. Ring. Ring. Michael! Oh my God! Son, where are you? Are you all right? Eleanor's hysterical voice shrieked from the other end. Mom, Michael began to cry. This time, it wasn't acting. He was crying for his mother's evil. Mom, help me. Sarah's lost her mind. She's been holding a knife on me in the car. She almost crashed into a truck. Oh, sweetheart, I told you that woman was sick. Where are you now? I'll come get you with the police. No police, Mom, Michael said quickly. Sarah threatened to slit Leo's throat if she hears a siren. She's desperate. I'm scared, Mom. There was a brief silence as Eleanor processed this. Okay, calm down, darling. Where is Sarah now? She's asleep in the car. We stopped at some old factory on the edge of town. I managed to get the car keys. I want to run away with Leo, but I don't know where to go. I'm afraid she'll chase us. Listen to me. Eleanor's voice turned cold and tactical. You stay right there. Don't go anywhere. Lock the car doors. I'm coming to you now. I'll bring Mr. Jones, the driver. Don't tell anyone else. We'll handle this as a family. I don't want our reputation ruined by a media circus. Okay, Mom, hurry. I'm scared for Leo. Click. The line went dead. Michael put the phone down, his face pale, covered in a cold sweat. She took the bait, he said softly. She's not bringing the police because she wants to take care of Sarah herself. She thinks Sarah is asleep in the car. The location is the old abandoned sugar refinery, right? Rebecca asked. It's large and open, good for an ambush, but dangerous if she brings more thugs. I've already contacted a friend of mine in the force, Detective Miller, Rebecca said. He's an honest cop and a rival of the chief your mother has in her pocket. His team will be in position an hour before she arrives. They'll fit you with a wire, Michael. Sarah gripped Michael's hand. Are you sure you can do this? You'll have to look her in the eye and lie to her. Michael looked deeply into Sarah's eyes. For 35 years, I've lived her lie, Sarah. My first wife is dead because of her. My son was traumatized for a year because of her. I almost lost you. I won't fail again. That evening, they made their move. Rebecca lent them her old car. Sarah didn't go to the meeting point. It was too risky. She would wait in the police command vehicle with Detective Miller, watching from a monitor. Michael and Leo drove off to war. The old sugar refinery stood like a giant skeleton against the bruised evening sky. Weeds grew chest-high. The place was desolate and eerie. Michael parked in the open area as instructed. Taped to his shirt was a tiny wire and a button camera, feeding live to the police team hidden in the ruins about 50 meters away. Remember, Leo, Michael whispered before they got out. When Grandma gets here, you go back to being mute. Don't say a word until I give you the signal. Leo nodded, gripping his father's hand. His small hand was cold but steady. 10 minutes later, a black Lincoln Navigator entered the refinery grounds. It stopped 10 meters away. The door opened. Eleanor got out. She wasn't alone. 2 new thugs flanked her. She wore dark sunglasses despite the dim light, her posture as arrogant as ever. Michael, she called, opening her arms. Come here, son. Come to Mother. Michael walked toward her, leading Leo. His face was a mask of a confused, scared son. Mom. Sarah's in that warehouse over there, looking for water. I locked her in. He lied, pointing to a dark, derelict building. Good. Eleanor smiled with satisfaction. She looked down at Leo. Come here, my little grandson. Oh, you poor dear, you're so filthy. She roughly pulled Leo away from Michael and handed him to one of the thugs. Put him in the car. Lock it. Wait, Mom, Michael protested. Let Leo stay with me. Don't argue. Eleanor snapped. "He'll be safer." Leo was put in the navigator. Now it was just Michael and Eleanor, with one thug standing guard, his hand clearly holding a weapon under his jacket. "Now, where's the key?" Eleanor asked, gesturing to the warehouse. "Mom," Michael stalled, grabbing her arm. His voice trembled. "What are you going to do to Sarah?" "You don't need to know, Michael. You just go home. Let me and my men handle the crazy woman. We'll tell the police she committed suicide out of stress." "Suicide?" Michael acted shocked, stepping back. "You mean you're going to kill her? Like you killed my first wife, Cynthia?" Eleanor froze. She looked around. The place was deserted, safe. Just her, her foolish son, and her muscle. Her ego flared. She felt the need to assert her dominance. "Listen, Michael," Eleanor gripped his collar. "Cynthia died because she was going to divorce you and take half our assets. She was going to take Leo away. I did it for you. For us. So it's true, you sabotaged her car," Michael pushed. In the command vehicle, Detective Miller gave a thumbs up. They got it. "Yes, so what?" Eleanor screamed, losing control. "Do you have any idea how much debt I'm in?" $15 million, Michael. I have loan sharks after me." The confession hung in the dead air of the old refinery. Clear, loud, perfectly recorded. "You're evil," Michael shook his head, tears of relief now falling. "You're not human. I did this for the family's honor. Now move. Where's the key to that warehouse? I'll burn that little gutter snipe alive inside it." Eleanor reached into her purse and pulled out a bottle of lighter fluid. She fully intended to burn the building down. Michael slowly backed away. He raised both hands. "I'm sorry, Mom. Sarah's not in the warehouse." "What?" Eleanor was stunned. "And I'm not alone." Michael looked straight into his mother's eyes, a look that made her blood run cold. "Now!" he yelled. From behind the ruined buildings, dozens of heavily armed police officers emerged. Sirens blared, filling the air. Red and blue lights flashed, blindingly. "Police! Don't move!" Detective Miller shouted through a megaphone. Eleanor's two thugs immediately put their hands up and dropped their weapons. They were hopelessly outnumbered. Eleanor was frozen, her face a deathly pallor. The bottle of lighter fluid dropped from her hand. Her mouth hung open as she stared at Michael in utter disbelief. Betrayed by the one person she had controlled her entire life. "Michael, you set me up," she whispered. Michael didn't answer. He turned his back on her and walked toward the navigator to get Leo. "Michael, I'm your mother! You ungrateful child!" Eleanor shrieked as the police cuffed her hands behind her back. "I did all of this for you, you ungrateful swine!" Eleanor's screams grew more shrill, filled with curses, as she was dragged into a police car. Reporters, tipped off by Rebecca, swarmed the entrance, cameras flashing, capturing the humiliating moment the respected socialite was arrested like a common criminal. Her makeup was smeared, her hair a mess, her dignity shattered in front of the world. Sarah ran from the command vehicle, throwing her arms around Michael and Leo. The three of them clung to each other amidst the chaos of police sirens. Tears flowed freely, tears of relief. "It's over, Michael. It's over," Sarah whispered. Michael buried his face in Sarah's shoulder, his body shaking with violent sobs. "It was my fault, Sarah. I let a demon live in our house." Leo, now free, patted his father's head. "You were great, Dad. You were like a hero in a movie." Michael laughed through his tears. He kissed his son's forehead. "I'm so sorry." "Leo, from now on, no more pink medicine. No more evil grandma." 6 months later, the morning sun streamed through the open kitchen window. The warm, sweet smell of baking banana bread filled the house. It wasn't their old mansion. That house had been seized by the bank and was part of the police investigation. They now lived in a modest home on the outskirts of the city, with a large, green lawn. "Mom, where are my socks?" Leo yelled from his room. "Top drawer, sweetie," Sarah called back, pulling a loaf pan from the oven. Leo ran out of his room in his neat school uniform. He looked healthier, his cheeks rosy, and most importantly, he never stopped talking. He had become an exceptionally chatty boy, As if making up for the year, he was forced into silence. Michael entered the kitchen, dressed for work. He wrapped his arms around Sarah's waist from behind and kissed her cheek. "Smells amazing. Who's the lucky customer?" he asked. "An order from Mrs. Gable down the street for her book club meeting this afternoon." Sarah smiled. Her home baking business was taking off. Book club. Michael grimaced slightly at the word. The trauma was still there, but it was fading, thanks to the weekly therapy sessions he attended. "Relax, honey. This book club talks about recipes, not how to murder your daughter-in-law," Sarah joked. Michael let out a genuine, hearty laugh. Eleanor had been sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. She was convicted on charges of first-degree murder, attempted murder, insurance fraud, and illegal possession of a firearm. There was no leniency. Her assets were seized. In prison, she reportedly often screamed at the walls, as if they were her servants. She was utterly alone, abandoned by all her socialite friends. "Dad, come on. We're going to be late." Leo tugged on Michael's hand. All right, Mr. Bossy." Michael ruffled Leo's hair. They walked out to the porch. They hadn't bought a new car yet. Michael preferred riding his motorcycle now. Before getting on, he paused, looking up at the clear blue sky. He felt light. The golden cage was broken, and its inhabitants were finally free. "Bye, Mom. Love you," Leo called, waving. "Love you too. Be safe," Sarah replied. Sarah watched her husband and stepson ride away down the busy morning street. She smiled and went back into the kitchen. Her real life had just begun.